Imagine you have the power to travel between worlds, and you find that in this new world, your everyday items can be sold at ridiculous prices. We meet a girl named Mitsuha as she is falling off a cliff. When she wakes up, she finds herself in an open field, and she tries to remember what happened. She remembers being pushed off the cliff, and we also see that she lost her parents and brother in an accident. She thinks she might have died, but thinking about what her otaku brother would say, she deduces she can't be dead, because she can feel hunger and pain, so she must be in another world. There is nothing around her, and she walks for days, until she eventually comes across a girl named Colette. She gets taken in by the girl, but she speaks a different language that she doesn't understand. Despite this, she manages to introduce herself, and Colette is overjoyed to learn her name. The next morning, Mitsuha wakes up completely healed. She looks around, and finds this world is less advanced. Colette worries about her, but she shows off how she is already all better. She goes with Colette to help her with foraging, and as they gather the plants, she thinks that this must be how her brother felt to have a little sister, wanting to protect her no matter what. There are wolves that appear, and Mitsuha helps Colette up a tree. She leads the wolves away, but she trips, and as the wolf lunges at her, she suddenly teleports and ends up back in her house in Japan. Seeing the rock, she realizes it wasn't a dream and quickly grabs some weapons, including her brother's slingshot and pocket knife. She thinks about why she should go back, but thinking about Colette, she heads back. Using the slingshot, she gets their attention, and using pepper and spices, she blinds the wolf and finishes it off with her knife. The other wolves run off, but Mitsuha also faints. Mitsuha appears floating in a strange place and meets a lucky cat statue. It explains it is borrowing this form to talk to her, but says it is an advanced life form made of pure energy that goes around looking for entertainment, and it seems Mitsuha managed to take some of his power as she was falling off the cliff. The cat decides to let her keep the powers, explaining that she now has the ability to travel between worlds, as long as she can imagine the exact destination, and is able to heal at an accelerated rate. Seeing her as his entertainment, he asks if there is anything else that she would want, and Mitsuha asks for the ability to understand different languages, which the cat grants, and then leaves. When Mitsuha wakes up, she is back at Colette's house, and she is now able to understand her. She thanks Colette for patching her up, and Colette is surprised to hear her talking, and Mitsuha pretends like she recovered her memory. Colette's father thanks her for protecting his daughter, and pays her some gold for taking out the wolf. Thinking about her situation, she wonders how her brother would use her ability. Although she was left an inheritance by her parents, it's not really enough. Thinking about how this world is less developed, she thinks about making money by bringing other goods from Earth and selling the gold that she would make. Thinking her ability may disappear at any time, she decides she needs to make enough money so she can retire in both worlds. She decides she would need 1 billion yen, or $10 million to live comfortably, so she would need to save 2 billion yen to retire in both worlds. She starts thinking about the items she could sell, like matches and lighters, and even air fresheners for the toilets. As she talks with some men from the village, she learns about the lord of the area and about the king. She decides that she will need to head to the capital, but Colette overhears her conversation and doesn't want her to leave. Mitsuha says that she has friends waiting for her in the capital and promises to come back and visit. The next morning, she heads off in a carriage to the lord's town, planning to gain the lord's support before moving on to the royal capital. Mitsuha suddenly realizes that she stinks, having not showered since she got here. She asks the driver to drop her off, and when nobody is around, she teleports back to her house. After having her shower, she goes around and converts all her assets to cash. She does some research online, and her language ability helps her understand foreign sites. She looks up private security companies, and finds a company called Wolf's Fang. Using Google Maps to find her destination, she is able to teleport to the compound in South America. She pays off the guard, and is able to meet with the company leader. She lets him check out the gold from the other world, and he appraises it to be worth $200, so she works out that she would need to save 80,000 gold to achieve her goal. They come to a deal where she buys some guns and training in shooting for self-defense. She does more research about medieval societies to decide what products to sell. In preparation for going back, she picks up some jewelry and even orders a custom outfit. With all her preparations complete, she heads back into the other world. She arrives at the Lord's residence, but the guards turn her away because she has no appointment. There is suddenly a carriage that passes by, and she learns that the people inside were the Lord's sons. Mitsuha comes out with a plan, teleporting ahead of the carriage and waiting. As the carriage approaches, she lights some firecrackers, causing the horses to go wild, and she pretends to have been hit by the carriage. The boys worry about her, and they take her in. As she pretends to wake up, she meets the Lord Klaus. He apologizes to her, and she is glad to see they seem to be quite nice. Later on, Mitsuha introduces herself as a noble from the distant country of Japan. Seeing her fine outfit, Klaus finds this to be believable. Mitsuha explains she was attacked by a wild beast and separated from her companions, but she was saved by people of this town, so she came to offer her thanks. She gifts him with a Swiss Army knife, which instantly has them intrigued. Klaus asks her about her plans, and Mitsuha says that she is headed for the capital, but Klaus says it's getting late and tells her to ride the carriage in the morning, but Mitsuha says she has no money. Klaus finds this strange, because the knife she gave him would have been worth 12 gold. He tells her to stay the night, and he finds her identity to be strange. Back in her room, Mitsuha puts on her dress, and she joins the family for dinner. Klaus introduces the rest of the family, his wife Iris, their sons, Alexis and Theo, and their daughter Beatrice. As she eats the food, she is disappointed at the quality, even though they are nobles, but she eats it to be polite. After the meal, Klaus questions who she really is. Mitsuha tells a story of how she fled her country to avoid a succession dispute after her parents passed away, so she plans to make a new start in this country. Klaus is touched by the story, and Mitsuha says she would sell her necklace for some gold, but Iris is suddenly alarmed, revealing that pearls are so rare it should be impossible to have a full necklace of them. Mitsuha offers to give it to her, shocking her further, and Klaus wonders about the value of the necklace. Iris reveals it should be a national treasure, saying there is no amount of gold that could buy it. Klaus suggests putting it up for auction, but Iris also rejects the idea, saying if people found out about it, people would kill for it. Mitsuha had planned on trading the necklace to gain the Lord's support and funding. She wonders if they could just take the necklace apart, causing Iris to lose it at the suggestion. Mitsuha wonders what she can do for money and insists on giving the necklace to Iris. Klaus worries about the value, but Mitsuha tells them she only wants enough gold so she can start up her own store, telling them a sob story that Iris reminds her of her own mother, and they accept the proposal. After this, Theo says that her Swiss knife was amazing and wonders if she has any other things to sell. Mitsuha takes out a foldable knife and tells him she could sell it for 1 gold, which Theo instantly agrees to. Considering the value of gold, she is able to sell it for more than 10 times what she paid for it. Beatrice wonders what kind of shop she would open, and Mitsuha tells her she would sell some cosmetics and accessories for women, but also thinks she might try selling some food. Klaus warns her that the yields on crops have been dropping, and Mitsuha surprises him with her knowledge of farming from her brother, saying crops need to be rotated or else the soil becomes too thin. Mitsuha starts talking about coming up with new inventions to make money, having a good time, and even confuses them with her own parents. She starts tearing up, thinking about her family, and Klaus comforts her. Despite the tears, Mitsuha sets off the next day, with the money and support from the Lord Klaus. She has servants to accompany her, and heads off for the royal capital, excited about her journey ahead. Mitsuha makes it to the capital, and thanks to the Lord's letter of recommendation, she was able to find a place for her shop. She sets everything up, filling the store with cheap convenience store items, but also a rotating selection of more luxury items. She officially opens her shop, but as the day goes on, she doesn't get any customers. She tries to stay positive, but the next day, she still doesn't get a single customer, and she starts to get worried. She wonders why she can't get any customers, but finally, there are some girls that visit the shop, and Mitsuha is in tears. The girls have a look around and get curious about an item. Mitsuha explains that it's a tool to help remove fish scales when cooking fish, but this is a shock for the girls to hear. The girls check out some of the other items, but in the end, they don't buy anything. Mitsuha starts to panic, but one of the girls notices some shampoo. Mitsuha explains it as a magic elixir that cleans and hydrates damaged hair. Considering its price of 8 silver, they decide to pass on the item. Mitsuha chases after them, offering a complimentary sample, but the girls decide they want some food instead. Not knowing when she will have more customers, Mitsuha offers free food as well, begging them to stay. The girls reluctantly agree, and Mitsuha cries as she thanks them. She starts by taking one of them into the shower. Her friends are worried, but the girl soon enjoys the experience of having a hot shower. Mitsuha uses the shampoo on her hair, and then even gives her a sample of the body wash. As she dries off the girl's hair, her friends think the hair dryer must be magic. The girl's hair ends up soft and smooth, and they are all amazed. They end up buying both the shampoo and body wash, and Mitsuha even sells a brooch. The girl's stomach growls, so Mitsuha starts preparing some food. The girls are surprised to see fire without wood, and start to think she is a witch. They get worried, but Mitsuha soon returns with some soup. They are blown away by the flavor, but it was really just some instant soup. Mitsuha brings out some fish next, and the girls are shocked. Mitsuha is confused why they have such a reaction to fish, thinking she did something wrong, but the girls enjoy it nonetheless. Mitsuha continues serving dish after dish, and the girls find everything amazing. As a parting gift, Mitsuha gives them some chocolate to share with their colleagues. As the girls leave, Mitsuha is glad to have finally made her first sale, hoping the girls will spread the word about her shop and bring in more customers. But the girls are worried looking at the chocolate. Thinking Mitsuha is a witch, they decide they must do as they're told and share it with their colleagues. They bring the chocolate to Marcel, the head chef of their house. As Marcel tries the chocolate, the girls are afraid, but he finds it to be delicious with its rich flavor. He demands to know where they got such an item, but at this moment, the lady of the house enters. The girls explain everything that happened, and the lady offers to buy the shampoo from the girls to try it out. Marcel asks about their experience eating fish, and the girls confirm they had fresh fish. The Lord is confused about how it's possible, since the closest fishing village is 10 days away by wagon, so even if there was a carriage running non-stop, it should be impossible to get fresh fish to the capital. The Lord decides to send Marcel to investigate Mitsuha's secrets, so the next day, he pays a visit to the shop. Marcel also finds the fish scaler to be interesting. He ends up picking out a bunch of items, but as he goes to pay, he asks why she is selling a fish scaler, revealing the fact that they are nowhere near water, so there are no fish in the capital. Mitsuha realizes her mistake and why the girls were so surprised. Marcel goes on to ask if he can buy fish from her, explaining that he is the chef for the Reiner house. He took over as head chef when the previous head chef became ill. He is now in charge of catering for the upcoming debutante ball for the daughter Miss Adelaide. It's a coming-of-age event where she is introduced to others in high society. The Reiner house is also a relatively new noble house, so they are not as well regarded by other nobles. Marcel is not confident catering for such an important party, and thinks if he could serve fish, which no one else can get, he will be able to impress everyone. Mitsuha considers what she should do, and gets the feeling that she should help him. She ends up offering up a consultation service, saying she can help with solving all kinds of problems. Soon after, the Lord Reiner and his wife also visit. They have a tasting dinner, and Mitsuha serves up a range of different dishes. They find everything to be delightful, and the Lord asks to contract her to help with the food for the ball. But Mitsuha actually refuses this, to his surprise. She says it would be boring to just make the food, and she requests that they give her full control over the event, from preparing the dress, to directing the performance, and everything else. The Lord agrees with her request, and as they prepare to leave, Mitsuha is surprised when his wife asks to buy more shampoo and body wash. Mitsuha has prepared a premium product for her, which she sells for even more money. At the Reiner house, Mitsuha visits Marcel, and he explains that they must prepare enough food, or else it will seem like an insult to the guests. Mitsuha looks through a recipe book to find things they can make on a large scale. She takes charge of the kitchen, directing the cooks on how to make the dishes. As they practice the dishes, Adelaide visits, and Mitsuha takes her back to her store. She tells the bodyguards to wait outside, while Adelaide gets measured for her dress. She takes her upstairs, and puts a blindfold on her. With this, she teleports back to Earth, and takes her to her tailor. The woman drags Adelaide away, and measures her body. She comes out with a bunch of designs, and Mitsuha leaves the costumes up to her. Mitsuha tells Adelaide not to worry, and she understands just how much her parents are doing for her, so she knows they can't fail. Mitsuha sends her off, and she is also determined to make it a success. Mitsuha becomes so busy with preparing things for the ball, she hasn't even been able to open her shop, and we see someone trying to get in. But the night of the ball arrives, and initially the nobles aren't too impressed by the food. Reiner thanks all the nobles for coming and tells them to prepare for the performance. The curtains open as Mitsuha starts talking on a speaker. She introduces Adelaide, who comes out in a beautiful white dress. They find her to be charming, and they are impressed at the design of her dress. They are confused at how they can see a field of flowers, but it's actually just Mitsuha using a projector. Adelaide changes into an armor costume and carries out a show as Mitsuha narrates to the audience. The guests are impressed, and Adelaide prepares her final costume change. Adelaide officially introduces herself, and the nobles cheer for her. Following this, Mitsuha announces that in addition to their regular food, they are serving some special foreign dishes at the back. As the dishes are examined, they are shocked to find fish. They question if it's safe to eat, but end up trying it anyway, finding it to be delicious. Everyone seems to be enjoying the food, and Mitsuha thinks things are going well, but she suddenly gets grabbed, and it happens to be Iris. She gets dragged away and brought over to Klaus. Iris mentions how she tried visiting the shop multiple times, but it was never open. They are curious about what she is doing here, and Mitsuha explains that she is here for some business. She suddenly gets grabbed again, and it's one of the cooks that tell her that the food is running out. She is confused because they should have prepared twice as much food, but it seems the guests are just eating too much, since it's food that they've never had before. Mitsuha excuses herself and heads to the kitchen. She finds them all demoralized, but she reminds Marcel what's at stake. Seeing that they still have potatoes left, she orders them to make fries. She ends up serving dessert, as well as French fries, and everyone is delighted. The nobles are thoroughly impressed by everything, from the entertainment to the food, and the ball is a huge success. After the ball, Mitsuha is finally able to reopen her shop. Business is picking up for her, and she was able to make 260 gold from the ball, which is worth 26 million yen. She took a bunch of pictures at the event, and can now sell them to the nobles at a premium. A man suddenly comes in, and he immediately demands fish. Mitsuha pretends she doesn't have any, but the man starts getting aggressive, demanding the fish or else. He is the head chef for Baron Turk, and after attending the ball, the Baron has grown tired of his normal food. The man believes he could make food that is just as good, if only he had the ingredients, so he demands the fish. Mitsuha explains that she is not in the business of selling fish, but the man threatens her. However, Iris suddenly arrives. She complains that Mitsuha hasn't been back to visit them, and Mitsuha cries about being harassed by the man. Klaus also arrives, and wonders about the intentions that the man has. The man becomes terrified and runs away. Following this, Mitsuha gets dragged away, and she goes back with Klaus and Iris. She is warmly greeted by Beatrice, who wonders what she has been up to. Theo mentions how she organized the debutante ball for Adelaide, mentioning the amazing food and performance, and Beatrice gets jealous that she missed out. She yells at her brothers, and they both run off. She asks Mitsuha if she will help organize her own debutante ball, and Mitsuha nervously agrees. They have a meal together, and afterwards, Klaus compliments her on how well the ball went, but they have questions about where she got the food from and how she got the items she is selling in her shop. Mitsuha thinks of an excuse and says that they were all things that her friends sent her from back home. She explains that she served up all the food and is now just selling the additional items that she was sent. They find her explanation strange, and Mitsuha worries about contradicting herself, but they just end up accepting it, saying that's just how Mitsuha is. Alexis tries flirting with her, saying she was stunning at the ball, but Mitsuha remembers how he was just flirting with Adelaide the entire night. Klaus moves on, and they end up talking about how to improve his farming for the rest of the night. When Mitsuha goes to her room, Beatrice comes to visit her. They start talking about her debutante ball, and Mitsuha describes how she would organize it, with a beautiful carriage, delicious food, and even fireworks. Beatrice asks Mitsuha about her dating life, but she admits she hasn't really dated anyone before. Beatrice asks her about her type, but Mitsuha realizes she is reading a note, and Mitsuha demands to know who sent her to ask. She finds the note, and Mitsuha demands to know the truth. She threatens to not organize her debutante ball, and Beatrice quickly reveals it was her brother Alexis who put her up to it. She also has questions from Theo and even Klaus. Mitsuha is surprised by this, and Beatrice says they were all paying her 1 gold for each question. Mitsuha also offered her 1 gold to help her mislead the boys, and Beatrice quickly agrees. The next day, Mitsuha is back at her store, but it seems like it's going to rain, so she doesn't expect customers. She thinks she could start selling umbrellas, but suddenly, a suspicious man enters the shop. Mitsuha is ready to protect herself, but a girl suddenly enters. She calls out for the man, and he charges at her, but she easily disarms him. The man takes one of Mitsuha's knives and threatens to take her as a hostage, but Mitsuha sprays him with pepper spray, and the man runs away. Realizing he took her knife, Mitsuha chases after him. As the man runs, an archer shoots at him from the roof, and he is surrounded by some other adventurers. The man gets captured, and Mitsuha is excited to meet some adventurers. She asks them if they would take a mission from her, and they are surprised at the request. They go back to her shop, and the group introduces themselves. There's Sven the swordsman, Sepp the spearman, Grit the warrior, and Ilsa the archer. Sven warns there has been an increase in shady people lately, but we see that Mitsuha is well prepared. They ask her about the mission, and Mitsuha explains that she wants to accompany them the next time they go out to hunt so they can act as her bodyguards and support. She also wants to stock items useful for adventurers, so she wants to see how they operate. The group discusses the mission, and they end up accepting. Mitsuha imagines how she will be able to make more money, and she heads to the hardware store to get prepared. The adventurers prepare to leave, and they are surprised at her strange appearance. They set off and head into the forest. As they take a break, Mitsuha asks how work is going for them, but they reveal that things are relatively calm, so they are just scraping by with odd jobs. So they are happy that Mitsuha hired them. They start off by collecting some herbs, and the group sets up camp for the night. Looking at their basic beds, Mitsuha wonders what if it rains. She ends up setting up an instant tent, and the group is amazed at the sight. The girls start preparing some soup, but Ilsa admits it's not very good. They have trouble lighting the fire, and Mitsuha asks to give it a shot. Using some lighter fluid and a lighter, she instantly starts the fire. Later at night, Mitsuha shares some of her food, saying she has too much. She gives them some minestrone soup, and the group finds it delightful. They are equally amazed by her other food, and Mitsuha wonders if she will be able to sell them. Sven suggests that there would definitely be nobles that would be interested, and even the military would buy her food. Mitsuha plans to make it affordable even for commoners like them, and they are all deeply moved. Mitsuha gets ready for bed, getting into her bathing suit to have a bath, but when the others see her, they have an extreme reaction, and the girls cover her up. They are shocked that she is practically naked, and Mitsuha realizes she messed up. The girls end up escorting her as she takes her bath. She tells them to join her, but they think she is weird. The next day, the group goes hunting, and we see Ilsa shoot, but she misses her target. Mitsuha notices another bird, and convinces Sven to let her take a shot. Sven thinks it's impossible given the angle and foliage in the way, but Mitsuha aims her crossbow, and instantly takes it out. They are all shocked, and we see that Mitsuha trained with the crossbow at the mercenary group. Eventually they start heading back to the city, but along the way, Mitsuha needs to use the restroom, so she breaks away from the others. As she tries to do her business, she comes across a boar. Mitsuha makes a run for it, but she can't lose it. With no other choice, she takes out her gun and unloads onto the boar. It lunges at her, but ends up falling over dead. Her party comes rushing over, and she stabs the boar with her arrows to make it look like she took it out with her crossbow. The group is confused at the sight, as Mitsuha explains how she took it out with her crossbow. They think it's strange since they heard gunfire, but they decide not to pry, and even promise to help protect her secrets. Back in the city, the group celebrates a successful mission. Grit wonders about the price of the lighter, and Mitsuha says it only costs 1 silver. The girls are surprised to hear this, but the men show no interest, saying they don't concern themselves with cooking. Mitsuha takes out a swimsuit magazine, shocking the group, and she tries to explain that she isn't weird, and that people back in her country find it normal to dress like this. Despite seeing this, they think she should still refrain from dressing like that in this country. With that cleared up, Mitsuha looks forward to working with them again. Sepp wonders if he could buy the book, but Grit punishes him. Back in her shop, she thinks about all the items she can sell thanks to her research, but wonders if there is a faster way to make money. She thinks about selling the book but decides it's a bad idea. She thinks about other art, but she has no real talent for it. She comes up with an idea, and she finds a quarry. She tries to imagine a sculpture while using her teleportation, but ends up creating a hideous-looking statue. She tries another 2 times, but they all end up looking ugly. She takes the statues to her shop anyway, and Mitsuha wishes she had done better in her art class. But there is suddenly a man that asks to buy the statues, saying they are so ugly that they would help ward off evil spirits. Mitsuha sells the statues, but is left feeling conflicted about whether she should be happy about this. Her shampoo is selling really well, but she wants to come up with another hot-selling product. A girl named Sabine enters the store, and Mitsuha can instantly tell that she's a noble. The girl wonders if she's in the right place, because there is no sign outside the shop, and Mitsuha realizes that she has had no signs since she opened her shop. As Sabine browses her products, Mitsuha admires her beauty, thinking that she looks like a princess. She buys shampoo along with some other goods, paying with gold without batting an eyelid, so Mitsuha finds her interesting. As Sabine leaves the store, Mitsuha sees a shady guy, and she wonders what he's up to, but he starts following after Sabine. So she grabs her equipment and runs after them, thinking that her store's reputation will be tarnished if something happens to the girl. The guy suddenly grabs her, and he takes her to the alley where he meets up with 3 other guys. Mitsuha catches up to them, calling them out, but they don't even see her as a threat. She thinks that they are human traffickers, so she pulls out her taser, shocking one of the men and knocking him unconscious. The others get scared seeing this, and ask her who she is. Mitsuha calls herself the messenger, but the men give her a weird look, and she gets self-conscious. She continues on, calling herself the messenger of lightning, and she starts firing at their surroundings. The men try to run away, but their path is blocked by some guards. They get arrested, and we find out that Sabine is actually the princess. Mitsuha tries to sneak away, but a guard stops her, calling her the messenger. She learns that the guard saw everything, so Mitsuha becomes embarrassed they heard her introduction. The guard invites her to the palace, where she meets the royal family. The king invites her to sit, while addressing her as the messenger of lightning, but she tries to correct him, saying she is just a store owner. Mitsuha explains what happened, and they thank her for saving Sabine's life. The king is not happy that Sabine snuck out of the castle, but she points out that she just helped him track down some human traffickers, so she thinks she deserves a pardon. Mitsuha asks the king if his vision has gotten worse with age, and the king admits that he is having a hard time reading small texts, so he uses a magnifying glass. Mitsuha shows him some reading glasses, thinking they will be able to help him. When the king tries it on, he is amazed at how clearly he can see. He immediately hands it to his chancellor Sar, and he is also amazed, finding it superior to the lenses they have been using, and excited that he won't need to retire so soon. The king is excited to see her other products, so Mitsuha tells him that he can buy anything from her store, except for women. The king laughs at her joke, but after she leaves, he understands that she meant she will not do his bidding. Back at her store, Mitsuha is happy to have sold her glasses, but cringes at the name she gave herself, hoping it doesn't cause problems for her in the future. The next day, a man named Nelson visits the store. Mitsuha can see he is bad news, and he instantly orders her to hand over her store. Mitsuha wonders who he is, and he explains he is the president of the Alder Trading Company, boasting about his partnership with the crown. He wants to take over her shop, but Mitsuha says she must discuss it with her business partner, telling him to come back in a day. Mitsuha writes a letter, and Sabine arrives at the store. She is now a regular at the store, treating Mitsuha as her elder sister. She accidentally discovered Mitsuha's TV, so she has been coming every day to watch it. Mitsuha tells her to keep it a secret, and she helps dub over the shows since Sabine doesn't understand Japanese. Mitsuha gives her the letter, and tells her to pass it on to Sar for her. The next day, Nelson returns to the store telling her to sign a contract he has prepared. Sabine gets sad, thinking Mitsuha is getting taken away, but she catches Nelson's eye, so he tells her he can take her as well. At that moment, Sar arrives, and Nelson is surprised to see the Chancellor. Mitsuha greets him, and Nelson gets worried about how familiar they are. Mitsuha explains the situation, and Sar begins to reprimand Nelson, saying Mitsuha is working with the king, so he will be punished if he causes any more trouble for her. Sar also tells him that the Alder company will no longer be needed at the palace, ending their partnership. Nelson is confused by this, but Sar says it's because he tried to take the king's daughter away. Looking at Sabine, he remembers when he was at the palace and recalls seeing her in the past. Nelson is devastated and ends up resigning at the president of the Alder company, telling everyone not to mess with Mitsua's store. Sar reports to the king, and they are pleased to be rid of the Alder company because they were corrupt, glad that Mitsua's case gave them a good reason to do so without inviting backlash. They are impressed with how Mitsuha handled things, and the king has a growing interest in her. Back at her store, Mitsuha watches TV with Sabine, but when a customer comes in, Sabine is annoyed her show is being interrupted. Mitsuha's glasses are starting to sell thanks to the chancellor, but a girl named Alina suddenly appears asking for help. They sit with her, and Alina tells them that her family runs a small diner with 2 workers. She explains that everything has been running smoothly until the son of a large restaurant's owner tried courting her. She rejected the man because she likes the apprentice at their restaurant named Anil, but the man's father wanted to get back at her, so he tried to take over their restaurant by paying their senior employee to quit and breaking the arm of her father named Bernd. As a result, their restaurant has been closed for the past few days. Alina cries as she begs for help, and Mitsuha agrees to take on the request. Alina introduces everyone in the restaurant to Mitsuha, and Bernd wants to hire a new cook, but Mitsuha explains it will be hard for them to find a skilled chef, and the other restaurant might send one of their own people and sabotage them. Mitsuha says that they should open the restaurant with their current staff, but Bernd points out that his arm is broken, and Anil isn't skilled enough to run the kitchen on his own. However, Mitsuha is confident that she has the solution, so she joins them in the kitchen, asking Bernd why it takes years for apprentices to become fully fledged. Bernd states that it's because they need to watch more skilled chefs cook, and can only practice during their free time. Mitsuha points out how slow this method is, and suggests if he were to directly teach and watch over them, Alina and Anil will dramatically improve. Anil is keen, and Alina sees this as an opportunity to get closer to Anil. Bernd still thinks that they lack manpower for service, but Mitsuha assures him that she has a plan. After the ball she catered, her Yamano cuisine has been grabbing the attention of the aristocrats. It is said that many chefs have tried to replicate it, but none have been successful. But rumors start to spread that the Yamano cuisine is available at Alina's restaurant. 1 week later, they are back in business, and thanks to her friends helping to spread the word, there is a steady number of customers. They are focused on higher margins, aiming for the more wealthy clientele. She even hired the adventurers, Grit and Ilsa, to help out with service, and they seem to enjoy the change from adventuring. Ilsa suddenly walks to Mitsuha, saying that there is someone suspicious outside, and we see the owner of the rival restaurant watching from the window. Mitsuha isn't too worried about him, planning to let him dig his own grave when he eventually causes a scene. After a few days, business is booming, as many nobles want to try out the Yamano cuisine. All of the tables are occupied, and Mitsuha is worried because they can't accommodate all of the customers. She overhears a conversation about how deliveries are being delayed because of the monsters that are being spotted around the border, and Mitsuha thinks about the dangers in this world. The rival restaurant owner suddenly appears with a group of men, accusing the restaurant of pretending to use the Yamano cuisine to steal money from their customers. He orders the guards to arrest Bernd, but Bernd claims that he doesn't have proof. The man calls out Marcel, the direct inheritor of the Yamano cuisine. He asks Marcel to present his testimony, but Marcel wants to have a taste of their dish to check if it's genuine. He orders some food, and when he tastes it, he becomes upset, demanding to know who made the dishes. The rival owner thinks they're done for, but Mitsuha approaches Marcel, who starts crying because she is teaching the restaurant dishes that she never taught to him, even calling her his coach. Realizing that Mitsuha is the founder of the Yamano cuisine, the man becomes embarrassed. Mitsuha explains that she only taught Marcel food that can be served for parties, and not those that are just for one serving. She tells Marcel to help in the kitchen if he wants to learn, and he happily agrees. The rival owner is left devastated, and at that moment, Count Klaus and his family have come to visit, followed by the king, which leaves everyone shocked. Mitsuha mentions that someone broke Bernd's arm, and she suspects the rival owner, so he gets taken away. She thinks that the operation is a success and the restaurant has become one of a kind. But Alina seems mad at her, because she didn't help her get together with Anil. Mitsuha asks the king to help match the two, but Baron stops her, saying he has no problem with Anil joining their family. At night, Mitsuha reveals that she only earned 1 gold for her help, but she's happy because she had fun and was able to make friends along the way. She thinks about how Colette is doing, and she sends a letter back to her, but Colette's father finds it strange that the letter arrives so late at night, and we see that monsters have started causing trouble. Mitsuha seems to be in a pickle after she stocked up on too many fireworks that were on sale. She gets a message and gets invited to a barbecue by the mercenary captain, so she goes hunting and brings rabbits from the other world to the barbecue. The captain finds them strange, but when he tastes some, he suggests that Mitsuha could even sell it. They all have a good time, and the captain explains that they haven't had many big jobs, so they are taking the chance to relax. Back at her shop, she is visited by Sven and Sepp. They are interested in buying her instant tent, but they don't quite have enough money. However, Mitsuha offers them a discount, telling them to bring more people from the Adventurers Guild the next time they visit. Chancellor Sar submits his report about Mitsuha to the king. They find her identity strange, since she appeared out of nowhere selling strange goods, but she doesn't have any ill will toward the kingdom, so the king thinks it would be good to maintain a good relationship with her. They move on to more pressing matters, and it seems they are having problems around their borders. We see the adventurers in the forest, and they come across a carriage that's been destroyed. Sabine visits Mitsuha at her store and invites her back to the palace, because the king has an emergency request. The king says they are going to war with the Alder Empire, who is after their fertile lands. They find it strange because their reports show that the Alder Empire should have no chance attacking them, but the king asks Mitsuha to take Sabine to another country to keep her safe. They say that the Empire's forces are approaching, and they have even enlisted the help of monsters, which is strange because it should be impossible to communicate with the monsters. The king has ordered for their forces to defend the capital, but don't think they will gather in time, so he wants Mitsuha to take care of Sabine. However, Mitsuha refuses this request, saying that her shop is her home, and she insists on defending it no matter what. As Mitsuha leaves the palace, she thinks about what she should do, and decides that she should take Sabine to Earth. She goes back to the palace, but she gets called by Sar, who pulls her into a war council. She finds Alexis there, who is there representing his father. The commander starts the meeting and reports that the enemy is due to arrive the following night. A messenger suddenly arrives, but Mitsuha finds him suspicious and jumps to protect the commander. The man fires, but Alexis also jumps and takes the arrows. The man charges with his sword, but Mitsuha opens fire with her gun and takes him out. Everyone is shocked, and Mitsuha checks on Alexis. He wonders if he is fit to be her knight, but Mitsuha points out how she still got shot, but encourages him to do better next time. However, Sar can see that his wounds are fatal. Mitsuha laughs like a maniac, saying she tried to be careful not to introduce technology that was too advanced, but because of this, she almost died, so she decides to use everything she has to teach the Empire a lesson. Mitsuha suddenly appears at the mercenary base, asking them to save Alexis. As Alexis gets medical attention, Mitsuha explains the situation to the captain. She wants to hire their group to fight against the Empire, explaining they are from another world, and even offering him 40,000 gold. However, the captain declines, not believing her story about the other world. As he walks away, Mitsuha starts driving one of their vehicles and chasing him around. As the captain tells her not to mess around, Mitsuha suddenly teleports them to the other world. The captain is shocked at first, but eventually believes Mitsuha's story. They see a disturbance in the distance, and the deer seem to be running wild, so they decide to scout things out. They end up at a tunnel and go inside to check it out. They find some men trying to move a rock, and they mention that their caravan is being chased by goblins, worrying that their children will be eaten if they can't get through. The captain helps with moving the rock, and Mitsuha heads to check on the rear. The goblins approach, but the rock is moved, and the carriages start to pass through. The carriages have a hard time crossing the river, so Mitsuha throws the captain a coin, wanting to hire him to protect the caravan, which he accepts. They open fire on the goblins, but they are able to get right back up. Mitsuha keeps firing at the goblins, but it has little effect. However, the captain shoots them in the head, which is enough to take them out. The captain has limited ammo, and thinks he can only hold them off for a few minutes. Mitsuha thinks about teleporting away, but she doesn't want to leave the villagers. She comes up with an idea and leaves the captain to hold the line while she teleports away. When she returns, she starts a fire to keep the goblins away, and she even throws a bunch of fireworks in, which start to explode and cause chaos. The enemy monster handler gets hit by a firework, and all the goblins get taken out. They celebrate with the villagers, and the captain finally believes everything in Mitsuo's story, so he decides to take on her job to fight with the Empire. They start preparing their forces, and Mitsuo gives an inspiring speech, which rallies the men. The captain is impressed by her speech, but it was just a recruitment ad that she once saw. The men prepare their equipment, and Mitsuo teleports them to the other world. Meanwhile, at the palace, a messenger brings news that 20,000 enemy troops have arrived outside the capital. The king thinks their only option is to barricade themselves in, but at that moment, a guard reports activity in their courtyard, and Mitsuo's forces have arrived. The king is overjoyed to see her, and she tells them that she will handle the enemy. They split up their forces to watch each of the gates, setting up their weapons and men on the walls. As Mitsuo approaches the gate, she declares to the people that she will protect them, and an old man recognizes her because he was around when Mitsuo saved Sabine and pretended to be the messenger of lightning, and the people start to cheer for her. She heads out the gates, and the enemy is waiting, thinking they are sending out wagons to stall for time. The general sends out a man to negotiate, but as he gets closer, Mitsuo has her sniper shoot him in the arm. The enemy is surprised, since they have never seen guns, and Mitsuo has her men open fire, aiming for their legs. Mitsuo gets a report that all the monster groups are accompanied by one human, so she orders for the monster handlers to be taken out. The enemy general panics as he learns they have lost control of their monsters, thinking that all their sacrifices have become useless. He orders to send the monsters in by force, but Mitsuo gets her men to fire again, aiming for anyone who is giving orders, and pushing the monsters away to send them back against the Empire's forces. As more men are taken out, the remaining soldiers start to give up. Instead of taking everyone out, once about 30% are dead, the enemy will usually give up. The enemy starts to fall back, but at that moment, they are approached by a swarm of wyvern riders. The enemy general prepares their counterattack, expecting to rain spears from above and break into the capital, but the mercenaries are prepared with anti-air guns, which open fire and completely devastate the wyvern riders. In just one moment, years of the Empire's training and funding has been completely destroyed. The general falls over in disbelief, but the ground suddenly shakes, and an enormous ancient dragon appears. Everyone is shocked to see a dragon, and the king realizes why the Empire suddenly decided to attack, and how they were able to control the monsters. The dragon decides to attack directly, but Mitsuo launches a smoke screen, and using a drone, she projects herself to talk to the dragon. But the dragon refuses to listen and attacks with its breath, but Mitsuo teleports out of the way. She orders her men to fire, and the dragon is shot from all sides. It starts to take damage, but the dragon creates a barrier to shield himself. It charges up its breath and retaliates, but Mitsuo teleports once again. They attack with rockets, but it's not enough to break the dragon's barrier. Mitsuo comes up with a plan, and when the dragon drops his barrier to fire his breath, Mitsuo teleports in front of him and launches a rocket into its mouth. She teleports to safety, and we see that the rocket has caused one of the dragon's teeth to break. They continue to fire at the dragon, and the dragon can tell it is no match, so it runs away. The general begs for it to come back, but Mitsuo opens fire on them once again, and the Empire is forced to retreat. Mitsuo leaves the rest up to the kingdom, and they find the dragon tooth. Mitsuo lets the captain keep it as a gift, and they return to the city. All the people cheer for her, and Mitsuo goes to meet with the king. The king wonders where her companions are, but she tells him they have already left, and Sabine comes rushing over, glad that Mitsuo is okay. Mitsuo returns to her shop after everything, and she gets a letter from Colette, worrying for her safety. Sabine comes to visit, bringing a letter from the king, and she is invited to the palace for a reward ceremony. The king starts rewarding those who contributed to the war, and Alexis is awarded the title of Baron for protecting Mitsuo and the commander. When it comes to Mitsuo's turn, she asks for the king to reward the ones she brought to help fight. Since she promised them 40,000 gold, she claims that her men went to great lengths and troubles to save the kingdom. Hearing this, all the nobles offer up gold to repay their saviors, and the king tells Sar to give as much as they can. The king wonders if she has any other requests, and Mitsuha asks to become a citizen of the kingdom. The king accepts her request and grants her the title of Viscountess. Mitsuha takes all of the gold to the captain, but he tells her to keep it because he sold the dragon tooth to a professor who, after analyzing it, sees an infinite number of applications, so the captain is sure he will become rich. Mitsuha wonders if they will retire from being mercenaries, but the captain says they will be around if she ever needs help. Back at the palace, Mitsuha officially receives her new title, and the king asks her to accept Alexis's title since he couldn't make it, but Mitsuha refuses, which causes a commotion, but Alexis suddenly appears, and Mitsuha says he can accept the title himself. Mitsuha goes back to visit Colette, and she tells them about everything that happened since she left. When she mentions that she has become a noble, Colette starts acting formal toward her, but Mitsuha tells her not to worry because she is still the same person that she first met. We see her closing down her shop as she moves out of the capital and into her own lands, where she can finally retire after making all of her money. But that's where this video ends. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like and subscribe to the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.